Hi, I'm Sabina Armbruster and I am here today with Dr. John Moore from ENERGYCHIRO. John, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
John, we were just talking about chiropractics for people and people that are in pain. And you were saying that one of the big mistakes that people make is that they wait way too long to deal with their pain. They wait way too long to come and see you. Tell me, is there a right time to wait, or what does too long mean?
Okay, so what tends to happen is we have a saying in chiropractic that pain is the last thing to show up and the first thing to go when there are spinal problems. So you can have spinal problems that are causing interference to the function of your nerve system, and by nerve system I mean brain, spinal cord and nerves, to that system, which is the master control system of the body. So you can have interference to that system without pain. The pain can come and go, but when the pain's not there, it doesn't mean the problem's not there. The problem, once it sets in position, then the bone that's interfering with the nerve sometimes causes pain, sometimes it doesn't. So pain is not a good indicator of your level of health. So another example might be, say, for example, a heart attack. So people have got a dicky heart. It gradually gets worse and worse, no symptoms whatsoever. And the first symptom often is death. So was that person healthy for all that time before the heart attack? And the answer, of course, is no. Same thing with a brain tumour. You may have a brain tumour that gradually gets bigger and bigger, no symptoms at all, then finally some symptoms, headaches, whatever, and have a scan and there's the brain tumour. So was that person healthy in all that time before the brain tumour actually showed up? And the answer, of course, is no. So using pain and symptoms as a guide to how healthy you are is very imprecise. So that's why it really does pay. And in chiropractic, we're all about prevention rather than cure. And so the fact is that, sure, I mean, chiropractic is by far the most proven and effective form of pain relief. There are so many studies that absolutely verify that. But chiropractic is far, far more important than that. And the thing to realize is that when you have a spinal problem that's interfering with the function of the nerve system, brain, spinal cord and nerves, whatever is at the end of that nerve that is, for example, blocked off, will not function properly. So if that thing that's at the end of that nerve is a muscle, that muscle will be grossly weak. But the thing to realize is that it's not just muscles that are driven by the nerve system or controlled by the nerve system. So too are the organs. So chiropractic philosophy is based on the fact that the nerve system, brain, spinal cord and nerves, is the master control system of the body. And when that system is interfered with, then the slave systems, the muscular system and the organ systems, all of your organs cannot function properly because they are controlled by the nerve system. And so when there's interference to the function of the nerve system, the slave systems, the organs and muscles do not function properly. And in that situation, that's when, say, if the organs aren't functioning properly, they're not at full strength, then gradually disease or dis-ease to start with, that it can then progress into dis-ease, is what can progress. So in proper chiropractic, it is all about making sure that those diseases, those diseases do not occur by making sure that the nerve system is functioning fully, the master control system is functioning fully. So our job as chiropractors is not just to relieve pain. What we work on is the underlying cause of pain, which in the vast majority of cases is actually a dysfunction of the spine, so that the spine houses the nerve system, the spinal cord and nerves. And when there's misalignment, what happens, it can cause blockage to the flow of that nerve energy from the brain down the spinal cord, out the nerves to all parts of the body. So proper chiropractic is about removing interference from the function of that master control system. That's what chiropractic is all about. And so it's not just a form of pain relief, it's far, far more important than that. And as I said, with that situation, with pain being the last thing to show up and the first thing to go, by waiting until you're in such a degree of pain that you finally do something about it, means in all that lead up to that final situation where you've got unbearable pain, then your health is deteriorating the whole time. And it's not just your overall health, the organs dysfunctioning, also the spine itself is under abnormal stress. When you have a misalignment in one area, you have excessive movement in another area. And that area with the excessive movement tends to wear out. Think of it as wearing out. So very commonly, we take x-rays of the spine and we see one area, typically in the middle lumbar area or in the middle cervical, middle neck area. That's when you look on x-ray, the discs are all thinned out and there's all spikes growing out. And that's because the spine's been moving excessively in those areas, and think of it as wearing out. So the body then lays down calcium to try and reinforce those loose, unstable joints, and the spine gradually wears out. And the further that process goes along, the more irreversible that becomes. And we see that very typically in, say, middle-aged people. They might have had back pain for 2 or 3 weeks. We take an x-ray and we see that area of deterioration in the middle of the lumbar spine or the middle of the neck. And, some people look at that and say, oh, that's where the problem is. You've got arthritis there. Well, it's not arthritis. It's the body's natural reaction to try and reinforce the loose, unstable area. So there are those 2 reasons why it's important to prevent A, the spine wearing out, and B, that to prevent the organs from dysfunctioning. So proper chiropractic is all about the nerve system, the master control system, which controls everything in the body. And that's why we get such great results when we address the underlying causes of all those sorts of situations. So that's
John,
why it's not a good idea.
Does that then mean that we should be going to a chiropractor like yourself on a regular basis when we're not in pain? Is that ultimately what it means?
That is ultimately what it means. As I said, dysfunction can occur and most commonly occurs without pain. So the pain may come and go, but the dysfunction is always there. And so, a chiropractic checkup, especially with kids, kids might not have any symptoms at all, but when we check them, sure enough, the upper neck's jammed up, the pelvis is twisted, the right leg is weak, whatever. And in that situation, if that's not corrected, then that child is going to grow crooked rather than grow straight and stay straight.
So when you say if that's not corrected,
yep,
how long can it stay, I suppose, uncorrected or in the wrong place or jammed up before it becomes a real problem?
Well, it becomes a real problem the day that it's dysfunctional, because from day one, if the spinal nerve is blocked, then the energy from the brain can't transmit through that blocked nerve, and so whatever is at the end of that nerve, whether it be an organ or a muscle, will not function properly. So that's when the problem starts, from day one.
Okay. If we came and saw you and the pain stopped, because I think one of the guarantees that you have is that the pain stops immediately, right? Or there's no fee. If we came and saw you and there was no pain and then we didn't come again, does that mean everything's okay?
No, it does not mean everything's okay. And so that's why a regular chiropractic checkup, say once a month, is a good idea to make sure that the nerve system is free of interference. We are designed to be healthy, and what happens is the healing energy, in chiropractic we call it innate intelligence. Another name might be the life force or the God force or the homeostatic force. And that's that energy, that information that is transmitted from the brain down the spinal cord, out the nerves to all parts of the body. And if that's not happening normally, then nothing can be normal, or whatever's at the end of that interference. So as I said, that's what we're doing in chiropractic. We are removing interference to the function of the nervous system or nerve system. So we're not adding anything. We're not trying to take over the control of the body. That's what the medical establishment tries to do. The medical establishment basically thinks we're a bag of chemicals, and when things go wrong, then the chemical balance is out of whack. So put different chemicals in the body. to alleviate the symptoms. But we understand in chiropractic that it's not the best approach at all. It may help with the symptoms, but it does not address the underlying cause.
Mm-hmm. Is it more important to come and see you as a child or as an adult, or does it really not? Is it never too late to come and see you?
Ideally, chiropractic care should start at about day 1 or 2, straight after the birth, because the birth process can be quite traumatic, and misalignments commonly occur, and that often results in things like colic, with babies that can't stop crying because they're in pain. So what we call subluxations, and that is where the bone is out of position, interfering with the flow of nerve energy, that can occur on day 1. And of course, if we correct it on day 1, then that's usually all that's required, because the problem's only been there for 24 hours or whatever. Whereas if that problem remains there, and it will remain there until it is corrected, and that may not happen until later in life. And so in the meantime, the spine continues to wear out gradually, and the nerve that's interfered with will continue to be interfered with, and whatever organ system is at the end of that nerve will continue to be weakened and in danger of becoming dysfunctional itself and disease-ridden itself.
Can I just clarify quickly then? So when you're talking about the spine wearing out, does that mean that if we have a problem as a child, let's say we're born and, I don't know, maybe the skull is a little bit out of alignment, if that doesn't get fixed, it's not the skull that is the problem, really, it's the spine that will have a huge effect on. Is that correct?
Well, it's the spinal segments, starting at the very top, the atlas C1, right through to the very bottom, to all the sacral segments in the bottom of the spine. Any of those segments can be out of alignment at any time, and once they are out of alignment, they don't correct themselves. It does need intervention to realign those abnormal or abnormally placed vertebra to take the pressure or the interference away from the nerve system, so the nerve system can then function properly.
John, I want to ask you now a question around referred pain, I suppose. So if we have a pain in our shoulder and then our elbow starts hurting and then our wrist starts hurting, how do we deal with that? Do we deal with the wrist first, the elbow? Is it, how does that all work?
That's a good question. So basically, with the spine, and this is one of the things that we've discovered over the years, is that with the spine and peripheral problems, there are very few what we call primary subluxations. So the chiropractic vertebral subluxation complex is when the spine's out of position, interfering with the function of nerve energy. And so that in turn can cause problems elsewhere in the body. Now, a good example of this very typically is if we have a look at the spine, most commonly, the pelvis here, these are the big sacroiliac joints. And it's very common, these big bones, the ilium should move freely. This one should move freely. But it's very common for these to be jammed up. And when that happens, there's no movement here. And that then in turn causes distortions right up the spine, and most commonly right up at the very top of the neck. So with energy chiro, with the advanced understanding we have, virtually everybody that comes in to see me, for example, will have an upper neck that's twisted and jammed up. So if we clamp the middle neck, isolate movement at the upper neck, and we test the movement, it's nearly always jammed up one way or the other. But then when we make the correction down at the ilium here, when we correct that, that's moving freely, that's back in alignment. Then we come back and recheck the neck. Oh, now the neck is perfectly free where it was jammed up before. So it's actually fairly rare these days that I'll actually adjust the neck. Everybody comes in with a jammed up neck. Nobody leaves with a jammed up neck. But I don't need to adjust the neck very often, because by the time we address problems in other areas, and typically It's like a house. If the foundation's crooked, the walls crack up, the ceiling cracks up. When we correct the foundation, the ceiling corrects itself. And that's a typical situation. So where you're getting the pain is not necessarily where the primary problem is. That is not a primary chiropractic subluxation. That is a compensation to the primary chiropractic subluxation here at the ilium. So that's a very typical and very, very common situation. So where the pain is not necessarily where the problem is at all. And so the trick with, for example, Energy Chiro is to determine where is the primary subluxation and where is the compensation. And so to adjust the compensation, to adjust the upper neck, achieves nothing, because it's like a crack in the ceiling. You patch up the crack in the ceiling, it's just going to crack up again straight away, because you need to correct the foundation as well, because that's where the problem's starting. That's a typical example. So that's basically how our understanding, our modern understanding of chiropractic works. We're actually advanced with some of our understanding from the original, and we're still advancing, we're still learning.
You said that one of the mistakes that people make is that they choose the wrong chiropractor or choose the wrong practitioner. So do all chiropractors not work the same?
Most certainly not. In fact, the chiropractic profession has a very, very diverse range of modalities, and each of the modalities have benefit to varying degrees. And so the best way to find a good chiropractor is word of mouth. So even if you moved into a new town, what's the best way to find a good chiropractor? Word of mouth. That's so go to the supermarket and just do a survey. Excuse me, I'm just new to town. Who's the best chiropractor in town? Do you know? And just ask 100 people and take the most common answer. So it's always word of mouth. Yeah.
And so when you were talking about fixing, or you very rarely work on the neck, you work on the other parts. Do most chiropractors work that way as well? Or is this a new style that you've worked out? What makes you stand out to others?
Yeah, well, as I explained, basically, as I said, as an example, the upper neck, everybody comes in with an upper neck problem. Nobody goes away with an upper neck problem. But most times the upper neck problem is actually a compensation, a crack in the ceiling due to the foundation being crooked. And when we correct the foundation, the crack in the ceiling just heals itself instantly. So I still do adjust the neck, but nowhere near as often as I used to when I first started. I've been in the game 25 years, and I was a traditional chiropractor for the first half of my career, but I've moved on to more advanced techniques. One of them primarily Dr. Neil Davies' Neuro Impulse Protocol. And Dr. Davies is way ahead of his time with all the discoveries there. And what I do now is largely based on, or certainly on the analysis of the spine, is based on the Neuro Impulse system. So your question about what modalities are out there, there's a lot of different modalities, and it's each has benefit, but the degree of benefit is variable, basically. And simply what I've done is over the years accumulated the best bits and pieces from a lot of modalities and put them together in one very unique protocol, which I now call Energy Chiro. And probably the most important aspect of Energy Chiro is the actual energy medicine side of it, which is completely unique to this system. So Energy Chiro is not just about correctly identifying where there's a physical misalignment or subluxation in the spine and correctly identifying where it's compensating and addressing the subluxation only. More importantly, in about 1 in 5 cases, perhaps even 1 in 4 cases I see, there are people come to me and they have a problem in their energy field, and interdimensional dark energy, if you like, within the energy field of that person, which then in turn affects the function of the brain, spinal cord and nerves, and causes typically a subluxation in the sacroiliac joints, as I mentioned, so in the foundation. And then in those cases, it doesn't matter what's done physically, it doesn't matter what technique is used, that twisted, jammed up pelvic joint will always reoccur very, very quickly because the cause of it is non-physical. And unless we address that non-physical cause, then that problem is just not going to go away. And this explains why most chiropractors, or virtually all chiropractors, do not have a 100% success rate. All chiropractors have at least a 5%, maybe 10%, what I call failure rate, where patients just don't stabilise, just can't seem to get things right and keep it right. And it's because the primary cause of the foundation of the spine, the twisted, jammed up pelvis, is non-physical. It's a dark energy in the energy field, which, when it's removed, the pelvis then untwists itself miraculously without doing anything physical at all. And then in turn, the upper neck that's completely jammed up also rights itself without doing any physical intervention whatsoever. And that's the real differentiation between energy chiro, and hence the name, energy chiro, is when we clear the energy field, the physical manifestation rights itself without doing any physical intervention at all. It's quite miraculous.
What does energy field mean? What do you actually mean by that? Like, how do we recognize that? Or do we not even need to know that?
Well, that's a good question. And to talk about the energy field, we need to also talk about the function of the brain. And the fact is that in his book, Inner Wisdom, Professor Dean Black talks about how a series of physiologists were asked the question, of everything there is to know about how the human body works, how much do we know compared to how much don't we know? And the estimates vary of how much we do know about how much the body works compared to how much we don't know. The estimates varied. We know somewhere between 0.001% of everything there is to know, all the way up to the most optimistic estimate is that we know perhaps 0.1% of everything there is to know. So at best, we know about 1,000th of everything there is to know about how the human body works. So, and of all the body systems that we do know about, the human nerve system, brain, spinal cord, and nerves, is by far the most enigmatic, the most mysterious. So we do not understand how the human brain works at all. So the knowledge that we do have, we think we're pretty clever, but we're actually not. What does know how the human body works is that special energy that we all have inside of us, which I alluded to before, innate intelligence. So that's the energy, the intelligence that runs the body 24/7. So for example, your liver right now, as you're sitting there, is producing somewhere between 450 and 650 different chemicals in exactly the right quantities at exactly the right time, if your liver is healthy and you don't have any subluxation. So how many scientists would it take, consciously mind, to produce that many chemicals? And the answer is 450 to 650 in a laboratory. So we've got that laboratory, that chemical factory inside our bodies, and we've got the intelligence to run that, to run those that organ, as an example, the liver, and produce those chemicals without any other intervention. And we can do that without even thinking about it, without our conscious minds thinking. So there are really two parts to the human mind: the conscious mind that we're using right now to hold this conversation. And when that conscious mind has knocked off for the day, when you go to sleep, the liver is still producing 450 to 650 different chemicals without you even thinking or knowing about it. And so that intelligence, that innate intelligence, is so powerful. It's so much more powerful than our conscious minds. Our conscious minds are puny compared to innate intelligence that's within all of us at all times. So to know or understand how these energy field issues affect the function of the brain, spinal cord, and nerves, it's impossible to know. So the answer to your question is, now that I've clarified and couched the answer to my question, the answer is I don't know. Nobody knows. It just does work, and it's quite miraculous because we don't really understand much about the human body and much less about the human brain, spinal cord, and nerves, the master control system.
Well, what I love about your answer is that it's clear that you know a lot more than just about our bodies. and you look further than just the particular pain that we have. And I love that about you. So that was a great answer. I loved it. Have you got an example of somebody that's come to you that you would like to share with us, that perhaps a back pain or a standard type of pain, or perhaps something that was extreme that you helped with?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked that, because just last week I had a lady who is actually has her own natural therapies clinic, a very large and very successful natural therapies clinic. They use natural therapies and the most advanced technologies to deal with their patients. So she's very well versed in all things in the natural therapies world. Anyway, she came to see me just last week, and she's had one treatment, and and I've actually got her Google review, so you can actually go onto Google and see this firsthand. But I'll just read out her review, and this is why we're able to get such dramatic results, is because of the energy work, okay, that we do with Energy Chiro. Just let me read it out to you. Okay. John is the most authentic, talented and genuine chiropractor I have ever met. He changed my whole body in one session, from twisted to straight and pain-free. He's a true master at his craft and a genius at what he does, a gift to humanity with astounding accuracy that I have never seen before. He was able to remove a lifetime of blockages, burdens and baggage in one session. Truly remarkable. I could have genuinely spent $120,000 on back surgery, which I can see now won't be necessary, because I have found a genuine miracle healer. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your care and the gift of you. XO. So, and that's what keeps me going, is getting results. I'm results driven. I love results, and I'll do whatever it takes to get results. And so incorporating this energy work enables that to happen. So with traditional chiropractic, which I did in the first half of my career, I could never have gotten results like this, which I'm getting better results than ever, but in a more gentle and easy fashion, without the cracking and the heavy work that sometimes goes on with chiropractic.
So, John, with that client of yours, will she continue to come to you? Is there more that you can treat her for so that this pain doesn't come back? What's the next process for her, next step?
Well, basically, once we start working on the problems, let's say a problem's been there for like a lifetime, and the bones have been out of position for years or decades, then what happens is that the muscles and the joints around that problem area have become used to holding the bones in the wrong position. So when we put the bones back in the correct position, there's always that tension of the muscles and ligaments to gradually pull the bone back out of position again. So it does take a bit of a process of repeated adjustments to retrain the bones to stay where they belong. It's a bit like going to the gym and expecting to be Mr. America in one session. It just doesn't work that way. It's a process. So proper chiropractic is a bit of a process of retraining the bones to stay where they belong. By putting the bones back in position again and again, gradually those muscles and ligaments change, readapt, and get used to holding the bones in the correct position. And as that happens, we space treatments further and further and further apart. That's how it works.
I guess the example that you've just given us is answers the two classic questions, or the deals with the two challenges of people waiting too long to come and see a chiro. There's no need to wait too long. Come and see you as soon as possible and deal with the pain. And the other one is, don't stop too soon, because if you do, you can't retrain those bones like you're saying. So that's answered both those challenges. That's great. John, how did you get into this? You're obviously incredibly passionate, and you mentioned your previous career as a chiro, or when you did things in the past. How did you get into this? How did your career progress?
Well, I've always had this desire to set up the ultimate healing centre, the ultimate healing retreat. So years ago, I started doing various courses and things that dealt with the like mind therapies, if you like. And the way I would test out the mind therapies, I would go to a seminar and I would examine my fellow students, test their neck. Is their neck going that way, it's jammed up that way, turns that way, doesn't turn that way, whatever. Test the pelvis, and then I would let the instructor do their work, and after the end of the seminar, I'd recheck them. And in the vast majority of cases, nothing really changed. But then I came across a system called holographic kinetics by Steve Richards. And at that very first session of his seminar, I did the usual, examined everybody. And what happened was one of the clients was put on the table for this demonstration. And yes, it was very interesting what occurred there. But Steve cleared out the problematic dark energy. I rechecked them, and the jammed up neck, the twisted pelvis was completely resolved without anything physical. And that was a red pill. Since then, I have not been able to look back. I've had to continue on because I now know the truth that certain chiropractic subluxations are caused by these non-physical, these interdimensional, these dark energies. And the other thing is when we clear them out, it doesn't just affect the body physically, it affects the body emotionally or mentally. And I always ask the same question after I've done an energy field clearing of somebody that's had been having problems for a long time. After the session, I have to walk around and I say, now give me one word on how you feel right now. And 4 out of 5 times that one word is, I feel lighter, like a load's been lifted off me, because that's literally what's happened. So there's the energy field clearing. It's quite profound. It affects people mentally as well as physically, and when we get rid of it, quite profound changes. Well, as that example, it's just demonstrated.
Love it. Sounds like there's so much more to you than the word chiro, I guess. John, we have covered an awful lot today. We've covered what a chiro does. We've covered how to deal with pain. Don't leave it too long to come and see you. Don't stop treatment too soon. We've talked about energy fields and how they affect our body. We've talked about the liver. We've talked about, what else have we talked about? We've even mentioned arthritis and a few things like that. Is there something we've missed? Is there something else that we need to cover, or something you'd like to leave us on?
Look, I would just like to say that with the chiropractic profession, we've always been seen as a little bit out there, especially by the medical establishment, because we, I guess, represent somewhat of a threat to the medical establishment, and primarily that's because of our philosophy. So the chiropractic philosophy, as I mentioned earlier, states that the entire body, the function of the human body is dependent on, or the healthy function of the body is dependent on the healthy function of the brain, spinal cord and nerves. So that's the system that we're dealing with in chiropractic. Chiropractic is not about bones and muscles, it's about the nerve system, brain, spinal cord and nerves. And with the energy chiro system, we have now a more advanced form of chiropractic, an expanded type of process that addresses not just physical but also emotional problems. It's the nerve system which is the system to focus on, and that's what chiropractic does, and that's especially what energy chiro does in a very profound way.
John, I have one more question for you based on that. If we had the flu, if we were blocked up sinuses, achy, is that something we can come to you for as well?
So basically, every function of the body, every organ is dependent on proper healthy nerve flow. So what we commonly see, if somebody comes in, they've got a little bit of a sniffle, not feeling that great, just not quite right. And then we do the adjustment, and what happens is that releases the flow of nerve energy, the innate intelligence. And what happens then is the immune system then kicks into gear. So prior to the adjustment, the immune system sort of running on half speed. When we correct the blockage to the flow of the nerve energy, the immune system kicks in, and very commonly, instead of that person just having a little bit of a sniffle and not feeling well, all of a sudden they get the full-on symptoms, the runny nose, the temperature, and so on, because those symptoms are actually the body's normal, healthy response to dealing with the germs that are causing the problem. So prior to the adjustment, the body is struggling to deal with that, and it's a half-hearted attempt to deal with that. But once we clear the nerve pathway, the immune system can cut in, and all those symptoms that are regarded by the medical establishment as being bad, when in fact they are good, kick in, and that person then gets over that cold or flu very quickly because the immune system's able to deal with it very quickly. So that's how that works, and that's again another, I guess, area of conflict, if you like, between the medical establishment and chiropractic. We have a very different idea about those sorts of symptoms. The medical establishment seems to be hell-bent on just addressing symptoms. So you've got a runny nose or temperature. Oh, let's normalise that. We can take this chemical and it'll bring the temperature down. Where in chiropractic, we say, well, that's a ridiculous, stupid idea, because what the body's trying to do, what innate intelligence is trying to do, is to heat the body up, to burn the germs out. Then the body cools the innate intelligence cools the body right down. You get the shivers. You're trying to freeze the germs out. You're trying to weaken the germs without damaging the nerve. So we encourage those sorts of symptoms. That's a body's natural response. And so even though those symptoms are uncomfortable, that's what needs to happen in order to deal with in this case, this example, to deal with that problem properly. So it's a different way of thinking.
Sounds like one of the biggest mistakes that we all make is that we simply don't know enough about what you guys do and what the capacity is of a chiropractor and what the result is of your treatment. John, thank you so very much for coming to this interview. Around this video somewhere there will be a link or a button that people can press to find out how to work with you or how to get in touch with you. So again, John, thank you so very much for everything you've shared today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.